Meet you all in the afternoon, actually. Uh, so the intention behind this workshop is I was asking uh, uh, the people also, like, what is the kind of people I will be addressing, and I do realize that I have a huge mix. So that being the case, I will walk you through the agenda first. So the whole point is, how do you use generative AI to for code generation, and if you want to have a content. So that's the major idea behind the lecture. So in the agenda, we will first look at what is generative AI, what is LLM, which is a large language model, what is prompt engineering. Then we will look into how to do prompt engineering for content generation and code generation. I will also introduce you to what all I see is currently new in most of the tools that I go through. Now, before I continue, let me say that I'm going to concentrate only on the tools that you can use for free without having a subscription. So that is the major uh, thrust of my lecture, that you should be able to use the free tools that are available as user interface. So first, generative AI. So AI, artificial intelligence, well and good. If I'm going to use this artificial intelligence to generate new content, that new content that you generate can be text, it can be image, it can be music, it can be audio. But the whole point is you're generating a new content. That is when you call it to be generative AI. Now, when you look at generative AI, let's say I asked a question, I went to play, okay? Now I need to, should it be, which among this do you think I should fill it with? I'm sure there's a chat window which I can have a look at. Okay. So which among this? Okay. I went to play. Now I need to rest. You probably don't say, I want to jump again. Okay. So now you were able to identify that when I give you a sentence, what is the word with which you have to complete the sentence? Okay. So you basically generated a word there. This is the basis behind what we call as language models. Language model, one simple definition would be, I just want to complete a sentence. I want you to predict what the next word would be. It is, in other words, just a next word prediction. There is no other fancy thing in a language model, except that it is so large, it's able to predict so beautifully. Fine. So now, okay. What I'm going to look at, tell you next is, now we know a generative AI has to generate new content. I know that a language model is trying to predict the next word. Okay. Now, how does this happen? A simple brief explanation on, I'm not going to go into the architecture or the mathematical basis behind everything, just what it is. Let's say you have a model. Okay. If you do not understand the word model, if it's beyond your probably you're in your first year of study in a computer science course, in that case I will say, okay, fine. Okay, in that case I would say, okay, fine, let's not look at what a model, the word model is, but let's just say that you have a machine, and to that machine, what I'm doing is I'm continuously exposing it to a lot of information. Now, what is the type of information I'm exposing it to? I'm just asking it to read all the books. I'm asking you to read all the websites. I'm asking you to read all the web pages, all the encyclopedia, all the social media data I have, all the conversation I have. I'm just simply asking the machine to read it. Okay. Let's not even get into the sphere of a machine. Let's just talk about human beings as such. We have a lot of neurons in our brain. Am I right? Okay. And what is that helping us to do? I think I've set some timer, which is taking me to the previous slide always. Fine. So now what is it helping me to do? Let's say you read a new topic. Right? Let's say the new topic that you're talking about is generative AI. First time you read it, okay, I don't have an idea of what's happening. Second time you read the same thing, Okay, makes a little more sense. Third time you read it, makes a little more sense. Fourth time, I understand it even better. Fifth time, even better, even better. The more number of times I keep looking at the same thing over and over again, I kind of understand what is a generative AI. Make sense? This is exactly what you've been doing in an artificial intelligence generative AI. I pass a lot of data, okay, to my artificial intelligence model. If you are someone who's used to computer science and deep learning, you can look at it as an artificial neural network. The architecture that we use here is called as the transformer architecture. And if you'd like to know a little deeper into it, you would like attention is all you need is what you would like to have and go and have a look at. So these are certain things which go into what is called as the artificial intelligence model. Okay. But supposing we are not understanding what this model is, all you need to know is I'm feeding my data into a machine. Okay. And then again and again and again, I'm asking it to say or see, okay, the information over and over and over again. Basically, I'm just training my model. And finally, what happens? So what is my machine doing? Just looking at my data over and over and over again. But there should be a basis on which it looks at my data. Am I right? Okay. If you're someone who's used to machine learning, you will understand that it has to be trained on some task. Okay. So one simple task that we would actually train it on is probably regression. Another task commonly we would train a machine on is classification. But here, I'm just exposing it to so much of data and asking it to train on what? Okay, there should be some way I'm telling it, okay, this is what you're supposed to learn. Am I right? Does it make sense? I'm supposed to tell the machine, this is what I'm expecting you to learn in this. Now, what am I asking it to learn? I have a lot of data. I cannot sit and label all these data. Okay, I cannot make it into a labeled data set for classification, regression. No way I'm going to do all that. But there is something I already know about the data. I can just, mask some words and then ask it to predict what the word is. And that detail, I already have it in my Wikipedia. Okay, so basically what do? I just mask some words and ask my machine to find what the word that I have masked is. I am training on this task. One other thing that you can do is ask it to predict the next word. That's called as causal language modeling. Anyway, the whole point is you're asking the machine to learn based on some task, either by masking and asking it to identify the word that you have masked, or give a set of sentence, a sequence of words, and ask it to predict the next word. But the whole point is with all the information from the internet, you are asking it to learn something. So what happened at the end of this language modeling is, okay, numerous data I gave to the model, continuously asked it to trained it on large amount of data over numerous days. Okay, on the task of identifying what is the missing word or on the task of identifying the next word. At the end of it, what this model could understand is where everything lies. Okay, so that's what the next slide actually says. At the end of all this training, what the model understood is, this is how a human speaks. The semantics of the language that a human speaks. See, you how a human speaks. You just asked it to find the missing word. But because of the numerous amount of data that it saw over and over again, it could actually identify. Okay, it's just like us. If you are, let's say you come across a new person. After 5 days, how the person speak. Okay, did anyone teach you this is how the person is going to speak? No. By looking at them over and over again, you figured out that this is how the person is going to speak. The same way, these language models identified that this is how a human speaks. Okay. I'm getting some questions. Can I answer these questions probably after some 40 minutes once the presentation is over? I think that would be more appropriate. Okay, but I will answer all these questions. Now, so right now I know that my language model has understood how a human speaks. Okay, well and good. Now, for these, we have a lot of language models. And let me just look at those language models and what they're capable of doing for us. Let's say I give in ChatGPT in the story of the fox and the crow, okay? And then it says, finally, okay, what did it go away with? The cheese, okay? The only thing I gave in the chat window was in the story of the fox and the crow lost. Did I tell ChatGPT the story of the fox and the crow? No, but it had already seen it in the internet. Okay, it has already seen it in the training data, so it knows exactly what the next word should be. Fair enough? Now, let me ask another question. Why is Kerala so beautiful? Okay, God's own country. Why is it so beautiful? This is a topic which requires an information. The last thing I heard, last question I asked was, what is, the last question I asked was, I asked it to complete a sentence. But here what I did is, I'm asking it, why is Kerala so beautiful? Now, it is able to give me information based on what it has already done or seen. So what am I coming at? If you want new information is able to give you, it is also able to tell you real information from the facts that it has already seen. That is the beauty of language models. Okay. Now I'll show you a quick graph. Okay. This is taken from lifearchitect.ai. I found it very, very apt for this, because if you look at it along the x-axis, I have the timeline, like in 2023, what are the models that are available in generative AI under the topic of large language models. So please understand that generative AI, I can either be talking about images or text. Okay. Now I am specifically talking about text here. So I'm looking at only the language models. If I am talking about image generators, then my whole set of models that I will be showing you will be different. But I am interested only in the language-based models. So the one which all of us are associated with and very, very clearly we know, I think it's ChatGPT. Okay. ChatGPT is what you called as a fine-tuned version. You need not understand what the word fine-tuning is, but the whole point is it's derived from the model GPT-4. Fine. Similarly, you can have Bing. Bing again is derived from a GPT-4. And like this, many companies have come up with many models. So what do we mean by all this? These companies had the resource of or the advantage of able to look at so much of data, and they had so much of computing power that they could actually design their own models where each model still understands the human language. Okay, so you must be familiar with Palm by now. And these are all paid proprietary models. But there are also quite a few free models. And the one which is so much on top right now is probably Llama. And then we have the Falcon. Okay, and we have Dolly, we have Alpaca here. And you also have the GPT-4 now, which can encompass all the models. Okay, the whole point is there are many models. And these models are introduced by various companies or various individuals or organizations. And each of this model has a size. And that size is given by parameters. The bigger the size, the better the model. So that is as simple as possible in a layman's term. Take a model which can understand human language. The more number of parameters it uses to understand, to mention how the human speaks, the better the model. And that's why we still like GPT-4. They have really trained on so much of data to make us understand, to make the model understand how a human really speaks. Okay. Now, With this came the new field, which I keep hearing is a big industry and also an industry which is well suited as a career path, which is prompt engineering. I have the language models with me. I have ChatGPT. I have Bing Chat. All that is good. But, excuse me, but I have to ask it what I need in a way that it can understand and give me the answer in the way I want it. Confusing? Okay. First thing, I make use of its model, which is I make use of GPT-4, okay, which is what is used in Bing Chat. So that's your middle thing here. That's your foundation model. I make use of GPT-4 in Bing. I want to do something. For that, I have to ask the question to the model. I found one very nice analogy for foundation models. Look at it as someone who is like a kid, and you want to make them understand what you want. Okay, it's a very intelligent kid. Okay, it's a very intelligent kid. But the fact is, you should tell it specifically what you want. If you tell it correctly what you want, it can understand what you want and tell you exactly what is required for you. Fine. So look, if you look at it, I am going to give a question to the foundation model, which is your GPT. And this question or whatever I'm asking is called as the prompt. And this prompt, can you look at the word crafted? Okay. It's literally like art. Why do you use the word craft? Write it in such a way that it understand it. The model is good. Its capabilities are huge, but I should ask it in the right way that I'm able to utilize its capabilities. Now that is where the thrust of everything lies. So I have to craft my prompt right so that I can use the model to get my desired response. So it's called as a prompt and a response, terminology of language models. And this art of crafting a prompt to get the desired result is what you call as prompt engineering. Fair enough? Okay. Now, not able to move the slide. Let me move this. Yeah. So these are some of the links that I use free. Okay. They are pretty free. ChatGPT uses GPT 3.5, Bard from Google, Bing. You have the Bing chat, and then you have Perplexity and you have Llama. My personal experience, I still find chat.openai to be pretty good. Please note the free version and not the subscribed one. I've not upgraded still. I still find it pretty good for generating text. Bard, I do like it because of the way it gives me the output. Sometimes I want to compare something, it just gives me an Excel and I can use it wherever I want. I like that. Bing is more sophisticated than GPT because it uses GPT-4, and I do find the results pretty good, but it does have a tendency to hallucinate sometimes. I don't know if it's hallucinating or assume, or maybe my prompt was wrong. But I find that the ability of Bing and ChatGPT are almost equally good when it comes to generating text. Perplexity did have an issue when it wanted to retain the past. Like, see, for example, when I keep asking questions in these kind of links, I have follow questions, right? I ask a question and then I wanted to answer based on the previous question and so on. Perplexity and Llama have a lesser capability than the above three. Though Llama is open source, and if you want to use machine, Llama is good. But all these 5 are user interfaces that you can use and in which you can use your prompts. Right? Now, the topic says, how am I going to use this prompt engineering for content generation? So that's what we're going to see. There are many types of contents that you can generate. One is poem, code, script, musical pieces, email, letter. You think of anything, it's there. Okay, it is such an exhaustive list, you just cannot write it there. Code is another type of text that it can generate, and it is capable of doing translations because that is again uh, under the what is that hierarchy of content generation. And then it can also give you informative text, which means we've already seen information on places. But remember, the quality of your text and your content, it depends a lot on the topic and the length of your content. Okay. Now, let's see some tips for prompt engineering. The first thing says, be clear and specific. Fine. And then it says, provide examples, use the right tone and style, break down complex tasks into new, smaller ones, use feedback. Let's see what all this means. It might look simple to you. Don't I know to give the right instruction? Okay. Right instruction to get. Okay, there are, if you follow certain formula, the chances of you getting the way you want it is higher. It's as simple as that. And that is the reason you need to go into prompt engineering. So now, other than these steps, some which will be very helpful to you is use keywords, use phrases, use context. But beyond all that, the last line will make a lot of sense. You keep trying many variations of the prompt. One of it will work. Catch hold of it, save it, use it the next time. Small variations in your text will actually give you very different output. That is something we've seen over and over again. Okay. Now, let me do the first thing. So my first prompt is provide 3 ideas to write blog on career path. What is your opinion? Is it a good prompt? Yes, no? Something on the chat window can help. Good prompt? Yes, 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 yes. Okay. Of course, it's a good prompt because it's clear, it's specific. What about the next one? How about this? Isn't this better? Don't you think that this is even better? Okay. I gave it an information, provide 3 ideas to write blog on career path. If you are unclear what career path you're looking at, well and good. This the first 2 lines are sufficient. Okay, just provide 3 ideas to write blog on career path. But the more specific you are, the more specific your answer is. The more control you have over what kind of content is being generated. There's a very important setting called as temperature in all these generative AI models. When you look at temperature, when you say a temperature of 0, okay, you are saying you just give me the facts. Okay. And when you say a temperature above 1, you're telling, okay, it's not just the facts. You also decide and tell me on your own what all you want to tell. Fine. The more specific your prompt is, the more factual statements you can get. So always try to be as clear and specific as possible. And now I was asking this. Look at this. Write a news article. Okay, I'm actually a little intrigued by Google Gemini. Suddenly, it looks, what to say, up till now I was able to use only text. And then suddenly I'm able to generate audio and text and images, and the amount of options increasing, and Gemini is telling that it can do a lot of things for me. Okay. So I wanted to write an article about it. So look at the way I phrased it. Write a news article about the introduction of Google Gemini. Good. Okay. I know I went through a little fast on the tips. That's because it would have been boring to just go through it. But here it makes a lot of sense. I said you have to say the purpose of your whatever article you want or whatever content you want to generate. And the second thing is, I am telling it specifically what style to use. Okay, for example, I say use the style of newspapers like the Hindu or the Economic Times or the New York Times. Okay. So it is, please note, your model has already looked at all these kind of papers. Okay, so it knows what style they are actually in. Some of the styles which I've used is like, use the Shakespearean style. Okay, when people want to write stories, I've seen people ask questions like, write in a style used by Shakespeare. Okay. But I usually say, okay, use it in a style used by teachers, and the intended audience is my student. So please tell me in such a way. So here I've used the style. I also have to specify who are my intended audience. And here my intended audience are the general public. Please note, if your intended audience are the technical people, make sure to do that. Make sure to write it. Your chat GPT has the ability to give you an answer based on it. For a general public, it knows, okay, for a novice, okay, fine, this is how I want to give it. If it's someone who really knows the technical things, my words can be much more, I can use more jargons. It's as simple as that. Okay. The next thing, write at least 500 words. Makes a lot of difference when you generate content. Okay. Next one, I have set the context. Okay. I have set the style. I've set the tone. I've set the audience. I've set the number of words. No, I'm telling it. Okay. Use only facts. If you do not know anything, see, what if there's nothing called Google Gemini? Okay. Let's say there's a Google's, let me come up with a new word, Google Mars. Okay. Assuming there's nothing like that. I don't want it to come up with something which is not there and write a news article as if it was existing. Please note, your chat GPT has the ability to do it. That is why you have to be really wary. It's not like you have no idea what the subject is and you just have and go and look, have a look, and you're very sure that the answer is right. No, 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 no. Especially when you want to talk technical things, ensure that you know something about it. Okay, because when you actually give the prompt and when the answer comes, okay, you have some way to recognize, especially all these are in the free domain. Okay, you have some way of recognizing that this is right. The answer is right. And the last one, use the following concepts. The more specific we are, okay, the more better your answer is. Always that's how it is. Okay. Now, look at this. Write a comprehensive blog post, 1,000 words, this topic, see the extent to which I can be more specific. Okay. These are all the points I want you to write. And inside each heading, this is what I want you to write. So please do not think that your content will be good if you just say, this is what I want you to write about. No, no, be more specific. Tell what titles you need. Tell what the subtitles should be. Tell what content you want under it. Okay. And also tell it, this is a blog post. Make it logical. Make the headings clear. Make the subheadings clear. I want practical illustration. And I want it to be informative, engaging, well-structured. All this information I give when I say content generation. Okay. And few short learning. A very important thing in what to say, generative AI. That is, see, your model has learned something. Good. But you can also tell it how to behave by saying, see, I want you to behave like this. See, for example, see, okay. For example, see, generate questions about the poem. You can ask a very, what to say, a very open question. Just generate questions about the poem. The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Okay. But You can also tell it, see, this is the kind of question I wanted to ask. What is the speaker's decision in the poem? What are the two rows that the speaker is faced with? Now, this gives ChatGPT an idea the kind of question it is supposed to generate. Learning, and it is a very full thing. Tell what the focus is, the format, the style, the intended audience, the text length, the list of points, what is the perspective, and if you want to use jargons, no jargons, etc. And there are also quite a lot of formulas like, what to say, give me X ideas for whatever about this for, etc. And all these kind of formula you get on the internet, especially in awesome prompts. If you look at awesome prompts, you will have an idea of how to frame your prompt. Okay. Now, before we move across, I would also like to introduce my book, which is Data Structures Using Python, and also Deep Learning Using Python, both from Wiley. And I'm sure it will also benefit a lot from Wiley Computing Now, which is just around 700 for students with 50 ebooks, especially in the domain of CS and IT and coming from a publisher like Wiley. Okay. And let's say I ask, I want to ask a question. And this question is based on some online resource. Okay, this is going to get really interesting, and this is something you can do it with Bard. Please look at what I've done there. I've given an URL. Okay. When I remember the URL, you can also have a look at the chat window for the URLs that can help you access the Wiley resources. So now you have this URL, which is javatpoint.com. URL you take. All this while, I was asking it to generate content based on the questions I asked. But now, specifically based on a URL. And this is possible in Bard. But I could not find this be possible in ChatGPT. Okay, it does not create in ChatGPT. I could not find Bing or in Perplexity or in Llama. But this was very useful when I was looking at Bard. Okay, now the second part of my lecture, which is on generating code. Okay, so this might be helpful for students, faculty, developers, everyone. Fine. So I say, what is the problem I am trying to solve? Okay, I'm going to give you the techniques and the best practices when you want to write a prompt to generate a code. First thing, ensure that you define your problem statement clearly. No ambiguity, even if you tell it to your friend. Okay, for example, I was giving one question in which I asked, search for a node X and delete a node X. I got so many questions from it. If only I had changed that to search for a node X in a singly linked list and delete the node that you searched, and that element and that X refers to the data value of the node and nothing else. If I had given more specifically, anyone would have understood my question. Same case with your generative AIs. So you can say, write a Python function. Okay, you have to choose the right language. Okay, Python, JavaScript, whatever. That calculates the factorial of a given integer n. And here in this case, it's not a big issue because factorial your ChatGPT would also know. But if you're trying to come up with something new, you have to mention what that is. What do you mean by the word factorial? Okay, where you will specify, let's say you're coming up with the research work and you have a new formula. All you have to do is say, I want to write a function for this. But how does ChatGPT know what is a function? Okay, so that is when you actually write very clearly. So this is what my entire process does. Then you tell what should be the input and what you're expecting as the output. And then you can also ask it what test cases you want to generate, You can ask it to be wary of certain edge cases. All this information, if you give, you will get a beautifully crafted code. Now you should be asking me a question. Okay. Uh, if it were me, I would have asked this question. So I don't need to learn programming. Does anyone else have that same thing in the mind? Okay. So I don't need to know programming, right? As, what I say, beautiful as it sounds, when you actually write for factorial, you get the output. Okay, no issues there. But when you want to write it for really big applications, you need to know the language. Very simply speaking, we looked at one tip when we looked at the tips. We looked at one that is which said, see, you give the prompt, and then if you don't get the answer right, you change it. I have come across this many times. Okay, I write sometimes in JavaScript, and I'm not very sure of JavaScript. The programming language I use is Python. So when suddenly I was asked to write something to be written in JavaScript, I gave it. Okay, and then when I executed it, I didn't get the answer I wanted. But I knew fairly well what changes needed to be made and why the mistake is. So I gave another prompt in my chat window saying, see, this is the output I'm getting, but this is the output I'm expecting. Okay. And if you are very sure that somewhere it has gone wrong, tell that also. I think this part is wrong. Can you check it once and then rewrite the code? It's totally allowed. You will get better code that way. So not essential that every time, the first time itself, you get the right one. It's possible that when you keep iterating, okay, for certain of my JavaScript, as I said, I'm not a JavaScript expert. I actually have it written some 4 or 5 times, but then still it's 4 or 5 times. For me, it's easier than learning a full JavaScript. But in 4 or 5 times, I could get the result that I wanted. Okay. Now, this was one good thing about it. And the next part I want to concentrate on, can I use it to create my own had written, create a basic HTML web page for a personal blog. So basically, I need an overall objective. Okay, compulsorily. See, what I've written there are portions in your prompt which should be there for you to get a good output. It's as simple as that. Okay, so I should say, first thing is I want it in HTML. And this should be a web page. And the objective is a personal blog. Okay, now comes the next one. Look at all the elements that I say are required in my web page. I need not know HTML. I need not know CSS. I need not know JavaScript. This you will get the answer. Okay, I'm saying I want a title. I want a navigation menu. I want a introductory section, a blog post, a footer section. And I just don't stop there. I also say how the title should be, how the navigation section should be. The more specific I am, the more beautifully my web page actually comes out in the form of a code. And then probably in certain places, the content you might not have given. In that case, you can just ask it. Look at the last line. It says you can use placeholder text. Lorem ipsum, it can use. Always you can add your content whichever you want in it. Okay. So here, look at it. Create a fully functional HTML page for a personal portfolio website. What all it should do. Okay. And how I wanted to create a web page. Look at the amount of detail I have given. Header, navigation menu, home section, about me section, portfolio section. Okay. It doesn't stop there. Even this I can say, this is the font I want you to use for these elements. This is the color. This is the layout. This is the framework. The more specific I am, the more I want it. I get it the way I want it. Okay. And look at it. I can also say that it has to follow some standards and that is, it has to work on different browsers. And you get your web page ready. Okay. This I loved. You know what I did today in Bard? I wanted to design a form. I was too bored to give all this. I clicked an image of a form in my Google Images. I gave it to Bard, and in Bard, please note that Bard allows images to be input. Okay, it's not allowed in ChatGPT, but and in the others, but Bard allows you. So I gave this, and I said write HTML, CSS, JavaScript code to design this. And this image, it actually converted into a code and gave me. The same thing I could do it in Bing. Okay, I'm sorry. I think I said I think I left Bing the earlier time. So with this image, it gave me the corresponding HTML, CSS, JavaScript code. Okay, that was really exciting for me today. Right? And then on an ending note, if you download your ChatGPT and your Bing from Play Store and put it in your mobile, you need not even sit and type. Okay, you have a voice recording button there. Just click record. You can record your prompt. It can record your prompt. And actually, Bing even gave me the response as it even read out the response. ChatGPT, the mobile app, did not read out the response to me, but it accepted my prompt as audio. But Bing, it actually even responded in audio. Okay, so that is the extent to which our language models have grown. And Bard has not yet put it in the Play Store, and none of the others that I know have either. Okay, so thank you. I will now take the questions. Okay. Now let me go through the questions. Varun, is that the right way to go ahead?
Ma'am, I'll pull up the poll first. I'll request everyone to participate in the poll. And once we're done with the poll, I'll read out the questions to you and then you can answer. It will be more convenient for you. I request everyone to please participate in the poll and submit your responses. Okay, in the interest of time, I'll let the poll running, and in the meanwhile, I'll read the questions for you, ma'am, and you can answer those questions. These questions are from the chat. The first question is, are there any limitations or scenarios where AI-powered content generation or code writing may not be suitable?
Okay. Are there any limitations? If you want to talk about the free ones, there are quite a lot of limitations that I have seen. If it does not understand what you say, the chances of you getting a wrong answer is very, very high. Prompt engineering, it looks like I know to speak English, I'm giving a sentence. It looks as simple as that. But no, it is not as simple as that. Especially if you're dealing with mathematics. Okay. If you're using any of the free AI tools and just telling, okay, fine, let me get an answer this way, it will be faster, but there is no guarantee this perfectly correct. Okay. So that is the case with the tools. But when it comes to code generation, if you use the specific code models, okay, it's not, I do not know the person who asked me this question, but if you are aware of the fact that there are many models actually, there is something called as a base model, which is GPT-4. From that, you have many models derived for different tasks. Okay, that's what you call it as fine tuning. So one is your ChatGPT. ChatGPT is specifically for conversational dialogues, basically for dialogues. But there are some models which have been fine tuned in which the natural language that you ask should be converted into a code like your your GitHub Copilot, and they work very well. But should you have an idea of the coding? Yes. It's not like I have no idea of coding and you get in. It is not, you do get very good code, but I will always suggest know a little about why and what is happening, because you will not know what question to ask next to correct your code. It is as simple as that. Did I answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. The next question that we have is, I think this is the most uh, frequently asked question. Will AI have consciousness in future, like we humans do? And the second part of the question is, will AI replace humans?
Okay. Um, Let me go through another question. In case if one has a well-written code for an engineering problem, is it possible to get the code for building GUI using smart prompt? Yes, it is totally possible. You just have to tell it what you want to do with it. It's possible for you to even optimize it. I was talking only about generating code. Please know that it is very good at optimizing. Check out where your dead codes are. Check out where your optimizations can be done in terms of memory, in terms of processing. All this is possible when you use your AI generated code. So it is possible to even build a GUI with your code. Yes. Best website, I think Copilot is pretty good. You can use any of when you look for a website like that, look for a code generation model. So about BARD, that idea was not really clear for me. Okay. When you use, I'm sure you've used ChatGPT. Same way you have something in BARD. You just have to log in into Google. BARD, I've given the link there. If you just click BARD in your search, and it'll take you to BARD. This BARD has the capability. See, in your Chat GPT, you can only type text, right? In BARD, you can also copy your images, okay, and paste it there and ask questions on the image. This is also possible with Bing. When you use it from the Play Store, it allows you to actually, like your Google Lens, it actually allows you to upload and take a photo then and there and ask questions on it. All this is allowed in Bing from the mobile app and in Bard web app, where you can use the image itself inside a prompt. Okay. In Bing also it's possible. You just have to add a image there. Is that clear, Kushi? Was this your question? Okay. Fine. Now let me go through some other questions. So one for about BARD. Okay, fine. I think I've answered that. And I think I saw one in which someone asked me about Open AI. I think I saw a question like that. I think it was further up. Okay. So basically, just like you have your Chat GPT models, you have you have these open source models. Was that the question, or was it a question on Open AI? Whoever asked me that question, can you post a question. I'm not sure if your question was on open source models or on open AI. Okay, so I'll answer both anyway. OpenAI is a proprietary model, works very well. Okay, but if you want to create it for, I basically do a lot of programming on that. So if you want to create it for your business case or your use case, when you want to fine tune, you have to get everything from OpenAI. Okay, as I said, it's proprietary. But you also have open source models which are free to use, which you can take and you can fine tune for your task whenever you want and use the model, for which the fine tuning can be done with your resources at your premises. So those are the two types of models that are generally available. And the one which I generally use is Llama 2. 7B is what I use when I want to try it out in my system or just with a T4 GPU and the Google Colab free tier. But beyond that, 70B Llama 2 would be good for an open AI, for an open source LLM. Varun, is there any other question I need to answer? I'm actually lost in the too many like I'm not sure which is the question I have to answer. If you can just pinpoint me to those questions, I can answer.
We'll take just one last question.
Okay.
The question is that, do you think ChatGPT creates a hindrance in creative thinking minds?
Does ChatGPT create?
Hindrance in open creative mind. So your creativity, you lose your creativity if you use ChatGPT or BARD too much, you rely too much on AI.
I love this question, okay, because I had this thing once. I love to write. Okay, I've written blog, not that I have great blogs, but then I have written a lot of articles. I write sometimes for newspapers but things that this is not something I do out of compulsion. This is something I enjoy doing. So when this chat GPT came and when I find that it can actually write better than me, it was a challenge for me. But it can never write like me. Okay, it can write like so many people, but I have a style. There are certain things which I want to say. I still write my own video description in YouTube. Okay, I do ask it, okay, now give me a video description. This is the title. It gives me, I don't like it. And then I rewrite it. And then I ask it, okay, now edit it and tell me if there are some changes I can make. Does it kill my creativity if you allow it to? Yes, it will. Okay, but if you enjoy what you do and write on your own, no, it can never.
Very rightly said, ma'am, because what I also think is that you have to have a creative mind to tell AI what you need. So until and unless you tell AI what you need, you'll not get any optimal results. Okay. So with this, we come to an end of the Q&A. I know we do have many questions left unanswered, but you can surely send your questions on acadmarketing@wiley.com. We'll put down the email address in the chat box. You can send your questions to us and we'll try to get those answers from Dr. Rose and then revert you with the answers on your emails. And the participation certificates will be sent to your registered email addresses along with the feedback form link. You can expect those within a couple of days. And once you have those, you can share your feedback and that can help us to improve and decide on topics that we want, that you want in our next webinars. With this, we thank you, Dr. Rose, for sharing your knowledge and valuable time. And thanks everyone once again for joining. And we look forward to have you again with us in our forthcoming engagement initiatives.
So just want to thank everyone for your patient listening and for your feedback and for the questions. Okay, it's never fun if there are no questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.